Welcome back everybody into a new installment of mine that I'm going to call Case Files or something. Here we will be looking at ideas that just stem from one scene as opposed to a whole episode collective. These scenes can range from any sort of media and any sort of topic could be covered here. So in this first installment, we'll be looking at House of Cards and more specifically the confrontation between Frank Underwood and Secretary of State Kathy Durant towards the end of Season 4. Here, we look into Frank's establishment of power over Durant in this quick scene and why it's so important for the whole series continuing.
Because this man, in this moment, as despicable as it was, is fighting to survive.
First, what is power? Well, of course that may seem stupid because power is power. But how do you define power? Is it a rank, a title, an action? What does Frank Underwood do with power? Plato once said, the measure of a man is what he does with power. And yes, you may be thinking, did I get that quote off of Goodreads.com? And yes, I did. But look at what Frank does with power. He controls it. He uses and controls people to achieve the ultimate power, since especially before and after ascending to the presidency, Frank's power has been challenged by those around him. He has always uses his power to destroy those individuals. Which leads us to Secretary of State Kathy Durant, who challenges Claire Underwood's spot for vice president. Durant believes she has a one-up on Frank. She quickly learns that she doesn't, which brings us to this scene.
You know, when I was waiting for my transplant, I had the most vivid hallucinations. You wouldn't believe it. Do you know?
Okay, so one more thing to know about this scene. The viewer knows about Frank's dual personalities. The Lyndon B. Johnson-like southern charm that he uses in public, and the hard school, power-driven individual he is in private.
Well, I guess not that many people here I'm all that comfortable with. You know what you should do? This is the White House. You will call me Mr. President.
However, these two personalities for the most part are kept separate from each other in the show, besides a few times. But in this scene, the two personalities intervene with each other constantly. So before we get into the scene breakdown, the scene contains spoilers for legitimately the entire show, so watch at your own risk. So we start off the scene with the room that is rather dark, and Frank in his public personality tells Durant a story, discusses his hallucinations that he saw while he was medicated from earlier in the season.
It's all true.
What is?
Everything Lucas Goodwin claimed. I killed them both just like he said I did.
But when Frank tells her that it's all true, you can see that she is working it all in her brain. This is where the first switch in Frank's personality comes in. After dropping that bombshell, Frank becomes the private personality. Then, after threatening her with the letter opener, Frank tells her it was all a joke. You can see that she's relieved, but not for too long. So Frank switches his personality back again to the public southern charm. Then, he re-switches it again to go back to his private personality, and warn Durant about crossing him, or she will face the consequences.
But we would have, if it was necessary.
What Frank did here was plant a seed of doubt in Durant's mind. You can fully tell that she believes every word Frank had said, even though he denies it. Frank asserted his authority over her by means of appealing to force. The reason for threatening this listener was some sort of means of force. Frank essentially threatened Durant with her life in the scene. In another scene, we can see that Durant being obedient towards Frank, and Frank even says,
No, sir. I'll coordinate with Doc.
After a dog's bitten you, you either put it to sleep or you put a muzzle on it. I've chosen a muzzle.
Now, how do we know that Durant was forced into obedience? Well, I think it's because Durant works it all in her head. It is well known in the show that Frank's rise was through corruption and scandals and resignations in the Walker administration. But I assume Durant never really thought of a puppet master behind it all. The world of House of Cards, Zoe Barnes and Peter Russo both died due to tragic suicides, and for the president to name drop these two would be odd. That's how I know that look of, oh shit, when she realizes who she was actually dealing with. This wasn't no accident president, this was a powerful manipulator who became the president. As mentioned before, I think the use of personality switches here also helped gain the power. With Frank constantly switching tones throughout the conversation, Durant doesn't truly know what is true and what is false. It confuses the listener as they have to decide now what tone is the true tone and what is the false tone, especially after saying it's all false, but the seed of a doubt in your mind believes it's all true. Nothing Frank could have said, Durant would have not questioned it. Frank could have said that he killed Russo and Barnes, and then said the sky is blue, and Durant would have to think about all of it. Imagine Descartes in the Secretary of State position. So I believe this scene is important because it's going to have a major impact throughout the rest of the show. Durant, I believe, will not trust Frank at all through the rest of the show. and might even try to undermine him at times. Frank, now having his cabinet in line with him, will pretty much have absolute power over what the president does, as once again he portrays here.
Yes, sir.
Kathy, do we have a problem?
No, sir.
Frank's power is now undefined. He can get away with what he wants and do what he wants. He will intimidate anyone that he has to. Here, he always intimidates with words. He didn't need a master plan that involved almost clairvoyant-like powers, like here. He did it with words and not with action. A deadly use of force if done correctly. So, that's all I have for this case file. Let me know if you want to see more scene-focused episodes, and if so, I will continue doing them. Next time, we'll look at another Black Mirror episode, to be determined. Like, comment, and subscribe, and talk about House of Cards or whatever. And as always, I hope you all have a great day.